I don't know if you can see this clearly. This is the 110-year-old statue that my great-grandmother gave to my mother, and that my mother gave to me, and whom I set in the western window of my house facing the fire to protect us. And so, thank you, Mary. I would say that in all the scriptures, my two favorite passages are the prologue from John's Gospel, in the beginning was the Word, and Paul's letter to the Philippians, chapter 2, verses 6 to 11. Have that mindset in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Although he was God, he did not cling to his divinity, but emptied himself. So these are the two favorite biblical passages for me. So I've taken the introduction to John's Gospel, and it talks about in the beginning, before there was a cosmos even, the Word existed, the Word of God. And the Christian churches think that this refers specifically and only to Jesus. And I know in my heart and hearts that it speaks about you, and it speaks about me, and it speaks about every element of creation, that everything that exists is a Word of God made flesh. And that when we come awake to that realization, we go way beyond ego, beyond our physical bodies, our etheric bodies, our astral bodies, our mental bodies, our psychic bodies, even our souls, and we realize that we're characters in God's dream. And so as I read that, instead of just thinking about Jesus, I want you to think about yourself, not your ego, but your core identity. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and through him all things were made. Without him was made nothing that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all humankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God. And the Word became flesh and made its dwelling among us. Words inspired by God. We know from physics that all matter is frozen light, literally. All matter is frozen light. And we know as well that it is vibration or sound that gives form to matter, whether the form is an oak tree or a bunny rabbit or a human being. So this dance of light and sound, or light and vibration, is how the entire cosmos comes into being. And so we got this great dance at the beginning of John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, the sound, and the sound danced with light, and created everything in the physical cosmos or in parallel universes, including you and me and everything that exists. We're all this dance between light and sound. And so when I think of John's Gospel, that's what I think of. And that every single one of us, could be a Christ-conscious being when we awaken to our core identity, when we disidentify with our physicality, and we disidentify with our energy bodies, and we disidentify with our astral body, and we disidentify with our mental body, and we disidentify with our psychic body, and we even disidentify with our soul. And we realize then we're characters in God's dream, which doesn't make us unreal. It means this is how God experiences. And the ultimate, task is to realize that Christ consciousness as individuals and to bring that into our world. And to do that, you've heard me say many, many times that we come onto earth with preconception contracts, groups of souls, cohorts that move from incarnation to incarnation, changing gender, ethnicity, religious affiliation, culture, language. All these things are changeable, but the core essence is the same. And I have kept repeating again and again and again during the crisis we've experienced on planet Earth during the last, since I've been in Palo Alto 33 years. And I keep saying, you volunteered to be here now. It's not an accident that you're here now. You didn't kind of take a wrong turn, at the Milky Way and land up on planet Earth. You volunteered to be here and to be here now because you've got a task to do. The task is to awaken to your own core identity, and the task is to help the world to transition into the next phase, into a Christ consciousness phase. And I shared with you some years back an experience I had where a good friend of mine, who's also a clinical psychologist, Matt McKay, regressed me into life between lifetimes. So at the end of my last lifetime and before I came back as Sean, that period in between, that timeless period in between, and the experience I had, I've described it to you several times, of being on what I call a launching pad, souls parachuting into incarnation in different areas, some of them non-physical, some of them other physical worlds beside planet Earth, and the amazing thing was that in that place of the launching pad, as souls were kind of hanging out together and sharing stories, people had the most extraordinary admiration for those souls who were volunteering to come to planet Earth. It's the most difficult planet, certainly in the Milky Way galaxy, because almost precisely there's a balance between evil and good, between light and dark, between willfulness and spirituality. And we volunteer to be there here. The problem is the vast bulk of us have amnesia for who we are and why we came. But we're here now because we chose to be here now. Now, the extraordinary thing is, about a week ago, somebody sent me a video, and I don't know who it was. There wasn't a name on it. It's simply an 8-minute video, and it is two souls speaking to each other telepathically. In the video, you'll see them as two little girls, but they're conversing telepathically in heaven somewhere, talking about mission, and particularly mission on planet Earth. And so what I'd like to do now is, I've asked Lawrence to cue this up and to play it for us. And then we'll open it up to a discussion, a Q&A on the basis of the video or anything else which is of importance to you.
So tell me, out of everything you've ever done, what's the craziest experience you've ever had?
That's easy. Earth.
Earth? You went to Earth?
I did.
No way. You were a human?
I was.
Wow. Are the stories about Earth true? Were they really trapped on Earth?
Some were. I know because I was one of the volunteers.
Wait a second. You volunteered to go to Earth?
I did. I had to. I had family trapped on Earth.
But how could you get trapped on Earth?
You had to be there to understand. On Earth, you wouldn't remember anything.
What do you mean you wouldn't remember anything?
I mean, you would have no memory of anything. You wouldn't even remember existing before Earth.
What? How is that possible?
It was designed that way. It was brilliant. To dive as deeply as possible into such ignorance, such darkness, and still find your way back to remembering who you were, that took true mastery.
Wow. I still can't believe you went to Earth. Tell me more.
Well, Earth had its own set of laws that everyone agreed to experience, like gravity. What goes up must come down, like linear time. Day is followed by night.
Time? What's time?
You know how when we think of something, it manifests instantly? Well, on Earth, there was a delay. The delay is what made Earth so difficult.
Interesting. Time. So tell me more.
Before going to Earth, you would choose your family, whether you wanted to be male or female, what race you wanted to be, the location on the planet, things like that.
Oh, so you could choose your own character.
Exactly. You would enter the Earth as a baby and be completely dependent on others to teach you the rules. But since nobody could remember the rules, they made up their own rules, based on fear and giving your power away to others.
That doesn't sound like much fun.
It wasn't for everyone.
What did you do while portions of you were on Earth?
I watched them. It was pretty funny.
What was so funny?
Here were these magnificent beings, playing the most unique and cutting-edge experience in the universe, and they were clueless. I tried to guide them as much as possible.
Wait a second. You could communicate with them?
Yes, but they couldn't hear me. I would show them synchronicities, or send them impulses to help guide them, but they couldn't see the signs.
Why not?
They didn't trust themselves.
So is that why they sent out a call for help?
Exactly.
Is that when you went?
No, I didn't go until later. The first volunteers, they had it the worst.
What do you mean, had it the worst?
Well, they killed them.
What?
They killed the volunteers.
They killed them?
Those on Earth couldn't understand what the volunteers were telling them. The idea that they were equal to the volunteers scared them.
What were they telling them?
Common sense stuff like, all the answers you seek are inside you. Everything I can do, you can do and more.
So they killed them?
And then they twisted the volunteers' message and created even more fear.
What do you mean, more fear?
Like the message, God is inside you, was turned into, you are separate from God. The message, all the answers you seek are inside you, was twisted into, you can't trust yourself.
And they believed it?
It was out of control.
How could they believe that?
You had to be there to understand. Did you know they actually believed that they were the only intelligent life in the universe?
Now that's funny.
Pretty crazy, I know.
So then what happened?
The designers knew Earth was going to enter a section of the galaxy that humans had never experienced before. A section filled with a frequency that might be able to reconnect the human's DNA.
What was wrong with their DNA?
It didn't work anymore. The thing is, their DNA was how they connected with their higher self.
So that's why your incarnations couldn't hear you.
Exactly. But there was a catch with the new plan. Only those incarnated on Earth could tune in to these new frequencies.
Oh, so they needed more volunteers.
Yes, but this time they were taking no chances. To pull this off, they needed millions in the physical form, wired and ready to attune to these frequencies.
Are these the 21st century humans that all the stories are about?
Yep, we volunteered from every corner of the universe to help the humans wake up.
What did the volunteers have to do once they got there?
We had to wake ourselves up, attune to these frequencies, and spread them to the rest of the planet.
That sounds impossible.
Most of those watching the Earth experiment didn't think we could pull it off.
So what happened when you got to Earth?
Once on Earth, we were taught the same fear-based beliefs that had been handed down for eons. We lived just like everyone else, totally clueless to who we were and what was getting ready to happen. But as soon as the Earth entered this cloud of frequencies, we started to question everything. And one by one, we started to wake up.
So the plan was working.
It was. The more we trusted ourselves, the quicker we reconnected. And the faster we started to remember what was happening. And since we were spread out evenly all around the planet's frequency began to rise quickly.
What happened when the planet's frequency began to rise?
The humans' experience of time began speeding up. They started manifesting their beliefs faster and faster. Those consumed with fear created even more fear, and eventually Earth just spun out of control.
What do you mean, spun out of control?
These low-frequency beliefs that had controlled the human experience for eons could no longer exist, so they began to self-destruct, and the world fell into complete chaos.
That sounds terrifying.
It was for those living in fear, but for us volunteers, we all knew it was the end of the old energy and the beginning of the new.
So then what happened?
A tipping point was reached in our awakening, and we created a new Earth.
A new Earth? What happened to the old Earth?
It continued on, allowing those who could not let go of their fears to play out their lessons. But for us, we created a new Earth that matched our higher frequency. And as easy as that, all the fear-based beliefs simply fell away. In an instant, we remembered who we were. We knew we were all connected, and we stopped hurting each other. We started respecting each other, started loving each other. We took back our power to create, and we created a new Earth without fear.
Wow, so the legends are true. What an incredible experience that must have been. Nice work.
Thanks.
Okay.
So there you have it, guys, from the mouth of God.
Patricia Burrell, unmuting you.
Thank you. So, Sean, I want to thank you so much for sharing this video. Love to know how you found it. Someone must have sent it to you. But either that or you created it yourself, because this is exactly what you're teaching us. So what I'm saying is I am not a very articulate person, so it's very difficult for me to share this in a cohesive way with others. I try, but it just doesn't come across. So I am very excited to be able to share this with a lot of the people I know who I think are open, and I'm sure they're these souls that just haven't come all the way awake. So it's just more of a comment, but I'm so grateful that you found this and that that I can share it with others. So
Thanks,
thank
Patricia.
you, thank you so much.
Part of the ministry that Lawrence offers us every week is that he uploads all the videos that we use and makes them available to everybody. So I'm sure it'll be available to everybody within 3 or 4 days.
Go ahead, Karen.
When the girls are telepathically communicating about this, it sounds like the two worlds start to separate, the two Earths. And my question has to do with, since nothing's ever really destroyed but remanifests, so if we could think of those two things as kind of two choices and becoming alternate universes, what happens to Homo sociopathicus? What happens there?
So everybody goes to school depending upon, their educational attainment. You're not going to take a kid out of kindergarten and put them into kind of postgraduate work. And so souls are at different stages. When we talk about young souls and old souls, it's not about chronology, because there is no time when you step off the planet. What it has to do with the level of, evolution that a soul has achieved through effort and through diligence and spiritual practices. But it would be really cruel to take a kid out of a kindergarten and put them into a calculus class and postgraduate, and have them flunk. And so everybody is going to be attracted to the vibration that matches their own vibration. And so in some senses, I'm sorry that I've called it Homo sociopathicus, and I did that only because the result is that my mindset, is into war and greed and violence and lies and whatever. And so the behavior is sociopathic behavior. But they're all souls, and they're all on the journey. And so every kid, when school starts up, the grade 2 kids are going to get into a grade 2 classroom. The grade 9 kids are going to go into grade 9. They naturally know where, they want to go. And so souls, as they reincarnate, will naturally, be attracted to the place that measures their own frequency. And I've said this to you as well before, that my theory of life after death, of heaven, that heaven is not just a toggle switch. You're alive on planet Earth, then you die, and then you're in heaven. It's not like that. There are gradations of the afterlife. So there are different vibrations, and souls are attracted to the vibration that suits their own resonant frequency. And so if I'm addicted and identified during life with my physicality, and sex and food and wine are all I'm interested in, and there's nothing wrong with any of those. But if that's my entire identity and addiction, that's the only level of heaven I can experience. Then you're talking about the 72 virgins version. If I'm identified on planet Earth, I've gone up a little bit, and I can identify with my etheric body, my energy body. Then in the afternight, I'm going to be attracted to that level of vibration, a place where I'm pure energy and can manifest as energy. If I've gone beyond that and in my physical incarnation, I've identified with my astral body, and that's the body that I use when I dream at night. And that's a level of body where time does not exist, and causation does not exist, and space does not exist. In your dreams, you can be in Ireland in 1956. I was in Ireland in 1956 with my dead grandfather who died in 1956 in a dream I had a few months ago. So I went 6,000 miles and 60 years backwards, and there's no causation. You know, as soon as you think of something, you manifest, exactly like the kids said. If you've gone beyond that and you've identified with your mind body, then Paul was on this place. Paul said, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor has it even entered into the heart of man what things God has prepared for those who love him. So if I've managed to get to level 4 while I'm on planet Earth, that's the level of the afterlife I'll immediately sync with. If I've got to the level of my psychic body, and then we're talking about John Bell and entanglement theory, that we live literally in a field of manifestation. And so everything that's present anywhere is present to everybody. And that's my experience in the afterlife. If I get to the level where I've identified with my soul, my essence, then heaven is a totally different experience. And if finally, you know, having fulfilled my bodhisattva vow until all creatures have awakened, if I get to the realization that ultimately there is only God and there is only love, then poof, the soul itself disappears and there is only God once more. And so both on earth, as we're here, and in the afterlife, after we transition, we're going to be attracted to the frequency that matches our own resonance. So it's not a judgment. It's just that's where we're attracted to. That's where we're at home.
Yeah, no, I didn't see it as a judgment, but it's what you're saying, that our level of consciousness, in the same way that it describes our experience to us of the life this life that we think we're living, this waking life, is in the long continuous life that never ends, is the same. Absolutely.
And that's why all the great avatars, you know, like the Jesus figures and the Buddhist figures, you know, you can be enlightened in this lifetime. You don't have to wait for 40 more incarnations. You can wake up in this lifetime and know exactly who you are. And know that this is just a mission, and this is a spacesuit that you need for a mission on planet Earth, but not identify with it. And then you'll behave accordingly, and you'll treat others accordingly, you know, and in that way, you're not just awake yourself, you're helping the world itself to wake up.
Well, I'm Wavin Dean.
Hey, Father Sean.
Wavin.
So, you know, that was brilliant. But I just wanted to let everybody know, especially for younger children, Pixar is coming out with a movie they're going to release in November called Soul.
Wow.
And it's along the lines of exactly this.
Brilliant.
But it's a brilliant one to share with really young kids, especially as a family together. As the lady had said, you know, I want to share this with my friends in my ohana to kind of introduce them to this, right? And I put the extended trailer in for Lawrence to share. It's brilliant, just like this, but in a storytelling way that only Pixar can do.
Thank you so much for doing that, Wavin Dean. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys.
I mean, this is the beauty. This, you know, everything has a good and a bad side. A knife can be used to butter your bread or to kill somebody. You know, technology can be used, you know, to destroy our world, to send intercontinental ballistic missiles halfway around the world to kill people, or to create this kind of thing that Wavin is talking about, you know, a movie by Pixar on souls to really help people, you know, to wake up to the reality. So thanks a million for posting that, Wavin. Yeah.
Call upon Aaron.
I'm going to try to piece together a couple things. The vibration, this sound, and the phrase that always stuck with me as a child from Roman Catholicism is true light from true light. And I was listening to an interview with Oliver Sacks's biographer the other night, and they devoted a lot of time to it, how much time he devoted to people who could not speak really and only had this internal life. And how he devoted, basically because of his life as a drug addict, to spending a lot of time communicating with what he perceived to be communicating with them. And eventually I think everybody, or a lot of people have seen that movie, and he brings them out into the light in a certain sort of sense of. My question is, if you could speak on the relationship between light, sound, and frequency.
Okay. And so in some senses, when we talk about sound, Aaron, we're basically talking about frequency. You know, I said a few weeks ago that, you know, this old adage, if a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody there to hear it, does it make sound? And the answer, the right answer scientifically is no, it doesn't. So sound is an interpretation of a frequency. So what happens when the tree crashes, it creates air vibrations. And if those air vibrations lie within 20 to 20,000 hertz, the human ear will interpret it as sound. It's basically vibration. Bats, if it lies within 0 to 100,000 hertz, bats will interpret it and have an acoustical image of stuff. But if it lies outside that range, you won't hear it. So every animal has a range of, where it will interpret air vibrations as sound. But sound itself actually is an interpretation of vibration. And so when we talk about the word of God as a sound, it's basically a vibration. And so the trick then becomes, can I adjust my ability, my perceptual modalities in order to allow that vibration to land within my own range, 20 to 20,000 hertz in the question of oral, so that I can hear that, I can learn from that. But obviously, a person who can totally expand their frequency scale, like an avatar, then any frequency is available to them. But they will move towards the frequencies that resonate deeply with their essence, except in one instance. And that is when they've taken a bodhisattva vow to descend into the pit, into hell, in order to try to wake up those who are still stuck. And so there's this very strange phrase, you were raised Catholic, Aaron, you know this very phrase, same phrase in the Apostles' Creed, that Jesus Christ, after he died, he descended into hell. So what was he doing? He was trying to reach those who are most trapped in the illusion of physicality and to try to wake those up as well. So again and again and again, the avatars and the enlightened beings are the ones who have the entire range of vibrations or frequencies available to them. They'll gravitate towards the frequencies of love, but they will constantly visit as missionaries. They will visit the other frequencies to save the rest of us who are stuck in the illusions that we're simply human beings, or that we have enemies, or that there are good people and bad people, people to hate and people to love, to rescue us from that in the realization that we are not separate from God, and we are not separate from each other, and we are not separate from nature.
Go ahead, Johanna.
I feel like right now, in this process, by the way, that filmmaker just went inside your brain and filmed all of those conversations. Yeah, amazing. So I feel like in that process, we're kind of entering the birth canal right now. Everything is getting so squeezed. Yes. We were kind of in, now we're just really getting, we literally, I literally can't breathe. You can hear my voice. My asthma's coming back. Things are getting more intense, and I think they're going to keep going. So is there anything in your last few weeks, your experiences that you went through, that came through as newer or more strong, and a way to access how to get through this and remain, in one piece here?
So it's a great question, Johanna. So there were 3 big things came up for me over the course of the 2 weeks, which I would say are probably the 2 most stressful weeks of my entire life. And the first one was fear, dealing with fear. When I saw the fire on the hillside and I knew it was raging towards us, not just fear for my own safety and for Ireland and for the kiddies, but thinking, that my home was going to be gone. And it was right in the middle of next week I'll talk more about that and show you photographs and stuff like that. And so a real fear came up for me. Fear for my life, fear for my home, fear for my friend. And so I realized that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the ability to confront the fear, to experience it fully, not to try to bat it away, but somehow to move through it into courage. And so fear is an invitation to develop courage. I saw that really quickly. The second thing that came up for me was the frustration of not knowing. Literally for the first 10 days, I had no idea whether my house had survived or not. I was using all kinds of aerial photography, and I was right in the middle of the fire, literally in the middle of the fire. It was burning all around. So, but the frustration, I don't know, did I, through some miracle, survive? And the frustration saying, you have to accept the frustration of not knowing, and you have to develop patience. And it's interesting, in many of the Romance languages, the word patience, pakscientia, means the science of peacemaking. So coming to peace with not knowing, that was the second really, really big thing that came up for me. And the third thing was, selfishness. I'd heard reports that other homes in the area were gone, had been burned down. And I'm still thinking, did mine survive? And so the invitation to go from selfishness to compassion for everybody. So those are the three big things, again and again and again, that I was confronted with, and just kept trying to meet with, saying, I'm trying to do my best, help me out here, give me courage, through the fear, give me patience through the frustration, give me compassion through the selfishness.
Ingrid.
Are you familiar with Patricia Cotto Robles?
No.
Okay, well, she's been a channel for many years, like decades. She has a website called The Era of Peace, and she always talks about how to reclaim your I am presence, your God self. And she does all kinds of meditations and soul work on this, and she gets messages from the company of heaven. She says, right now, at this very time of our human history, evolution and destiny, we are now having our, she calls it the fifth-dimensional crystalline solar light body is being fully activated, and our 12 strands of DNA, which were manipulated, are coming back together so we can be the new human in the new earth. And I really recommend her material. She's consistently, what I call her integrity and just her commitment to help us evolve into this new, heaven on earth.
Good. That's beautiful, Loving. So I have a practice every year, Ingrid, where on my birthday, I create a vision board for myself for the year ahead. And there's 8 sections to it. I look at my physical body, I look at my spiritual body, at my mental body, I look at my emotional body, I look at my financial well-being, I look at my mission, I look at my social, so all of these areas. And when I pray for my physicality, I have a few mantras for each section, and I end it by saying, my DNA is being transformed, so I am becoming a perfect receiver and transmitter of Christ consciousness. And so for me, that's what it's about, that every one of us, that literally, our DNA literally is being mutated so that we become, receivers of this new life, this new Buddha nature, this new Christ consciousness, and transmitters of it as well. So that literally our physical spacesuit itself is being transformed to accommodate the interior shift.
Go ahead, Carmen.
Father Sean, wouldn't it be better if we could remember all past experiences?
I'll give you 2 responses to that, Carmen. You've got 2 kids. When the first one was born and the agony of labor, did you think you were going to have another?
Yes.
You did. And what was that prospect like of going through that again?
Except if I would have had Eric first, he would have been the only son.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm saying is this, in a sense, if we could remember all the incarnations we've had and the difficulties of it, we'd be loath to volunteer for planet Earth again. That's the first response. The second response is, if we remembered everything from all our past lives, the good and the bad, we'd be so weighed down with guilt for all the crap we did, and we all did it in past lifetimes, that we would be unable to move. And if the element of discovery, of growing into new possibilities would be denied us. It's like if you were a golfer and you were guaranteed that every time you hit the ball, you scored a hole in one. It'd be really exciting for the first round or the second round. After that, it would get totally boring. The fact that you could hit into the rough or into the sand trap or whatever it means, every game is different and it's exciting. And you're learning stuff from every new circumstance. So we choose not to remember consciously, although it's hardwired into our souls as we come. And so the fact that we don't have conscious recall of them doesn't mean that we're not benefiting from them. So it's like that every generation of software improves on the previous version, incorporates and transcends. And so it wouldn't, in a sense, it would be a lot easier if we remembered everything, but we wouldn't learn half as much.